We might need some kittens for this one. I mean, we always need kittens.
Right, you
but,
always need kittens.
But when I'm doing super secret stuff that is super secret. Yeah, you want to tilt the machine this way, Susie? And we can center up. Oh, look at that. There's Blossom and Buttercup.
I was testing to make sure that they
All
were
right.
still on there, yes.
And Susie is completely off stream now?
We have a
Nope.
delay.
There you go. Okay. So you can watch questions because I can't quite...
Read that.
I can barely make it out that Scrabble. Is that a... Anyways, you all know me. I'm Thomas Blair, lead designer, and this is Susie.
Hello,
Last name?
Windeler.
It's always so long. She is one of our engineers.
I code things.
Yes, she makes things beep boop, as Cook likes to say. Calls all the engineers beep boops. But again, Todd presented this problem to me a couple months ago, which was the fact that it was hard to tell what the hell mattered about any of the stats that we were giving you from equipment, which meant that equipment wasn't important. The skill system was less important. So tackling that problem and just going back to a really good character sheet that shows you the relationship between our hierarchical stats, because we have attributes that go into stats. And they're playing with the camera. The non-googly-eyed camera.
She was like cut off, and you had just comfortable space on either side of you. It seemed a little.
Nobody can sit next to Blair.
Apparently.
Sorry. I'm a big ape. What are you going to do? So, anyways, how our attributes...
Tapper missed you insulting him, but I let him know.
Okay.
So don't
Thank you,
worry
Todd.
about it.
Where were we? Yes. So making our attributes important and making stats important was obviously a critical thing. So here you can see our character sheet. And last stream when I showed it to you, it was very rough. And Susie's gone back and made some polishes to it.
Some polishes, yes.
And now what were the differences?
So now we have weapon damage, which does show you your weapon damage and will update when we equip a weapon to show you more weapon damage.
Okay.
We will be adding a hover over here to show you what the actual calculation is, I believe, so that you know why you have weapon damage.
Well, so this is not just the raw...
It's not just from the weapon itself. Weapon damage is calculated from your character's min and max weapon damage, which probably comes from skill trees, and also part of your attack power goes into your weapon damage.
Right, so some of this attack power ends up in the weapon damage, and then there are a couple stats that says raises min, or skills that say raises min weapon damage by blah, raises max weapon damage by blah, and that all feeds into this one value. Now, before people start asking, well, what about my offhand and what about my ranged weapon?
We'll be adding fields for those,
Great.
both for your primary weapon, your offhanded weapon, and your ranged. Either they'll show up as 3 different fields below there, or we'll have them as additional information on a tooltip. We haven't quite figured out how we want to display that yet, but it'll be good one day.
So once again, I have no weapon equipped here, but it still says 12 to 12.
Right.
And again, that's coming from the attack power contribution as well as whatever min-max values I have. And if I were to do a basic unarmed attack, I would be doing that, I'm assuming.
And I think right now on your character, you probably are just getting attack power. I'm guessing if we looked at your stats, your weapon min and max, or your attack min and max would be 0, given that that number's 12. Since it's
Okay.
a flat number like that, you're probably just getting attack power.
Yep, so if I were to equip this 56 to 79 mace, it's actually going to have those values added into it.
Yep.
Also, there are things that activate when you equip things within the skill system. They say like grants blah 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 while wielding a one-handed thing, while wielding a weapon. All of those are going to also activate at the moment that I equip this mace. So you may also see your attack power and other stats all jump up when you equip a weapon because you're actually activating all of those skills at that very moment. But apparently on this account, I don't have any of those trained, so you didn't see a huge jump on those things.
Yep.
Okay.
And probably most of those stats are coming from your skill trees, at least some of them that we're seeing on your screen right now. Some of them, not
Okay.
all of them.
Another difference between last time I showed this is this is actually correct. The hit points, Fury is my resource since I am a male Minotaur Myrmidon, As people pointed out in the last stream, it was showing backwards. It was showing Myrmidon, Minotaur, male. We correctly flipped that, so you now start out with sex, race, and then class.
That one was a really easy change. I like when you guys want changes like that because it's like a 10-second change
Excellent.
instead of a day-long change.
Okay. So, also now when you hover over these, it tells you what is going on here. It defines what the attribute in this case is, what your current value is, and then for most of these, there will be a cap going in over on the right area, so you'll be able to see what the cap of any stat or attribute is. And then there is this connector line that shows you when you increase this thing, what is it going to increase? Now, the cap isn't showing in here yet, and the cap isn't showing in here yet, but at least you know what these stats do now. So prior to this, it was just like, figure it out. So I'm going to show you that by equipping a ring. I just made a bunch of rings. The Amazing Success ring happens to come here. This is the crafter's dream, where it guarantees that you will always get an amazing success when you craft. That will never make it to the light of day on the regular servers. It's a testing tool.
So we do have a question in chat that I've been curious about as well. Will we be able to see the stat bonus attributions to be sources of that bonus? Basically, where are we getting our stats from? Is that something we're planning on adding to the tooltip?
That would be a very long list, as you know, because
oh, yeah, I know.
there's, in some cases, like attack power is coming from 15 or 20 different skills, so showing them all would be a challenge. And it's kind of like, think of these as big buckets of water, and we're not showing you where the individual drops of water are coming from because it's just such a big source of things.
But could we do something along the lines of like, from skill tree, from equipment, are those buckets smaller?
They would be, and by could we, you mean could I? And yes, you could do those things.
Yeah, that's true. Can I go in and add in extra?
Can I give myself extra work? Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm always down for people signing up for more than they could.
Because I think that would make these tooltips pop out a little bit more if we knew where the stats bonuses were coming
Sure.
from.
Yeah.
I think that is an excellent idea.
Yep. Keep them coming. So I'm going to go ahead and equip my strength ring. And you notice my strength went up to 190 and my attack power jumped significantly. I'm going to unequip that guy. And you can see my damage modifier. So we do have a bug right now where this value is doubling for whatever reason. Hopefully that will get fixed somewhat soon. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but you can definitely see increasing strength will increase these sub-children stats. Now, what you're looking at here is probably a white quality vessel coming straight out of a temple. If you were to craft this vessel, it would definitely, if it was blue or purple, have much higher stats, and you would skew them more. So for those of you who have done any of the crafting of the vessels, I think Onrez is in here and he's probably done some of it. There's a component called a Philosopher's Stone that allows you to skew the stats in a significant way in one direction or the other. So I'm on a male Minotaur Myrmidon. If I wanted to, for whatever reason, boost intelligence and spirit because I wanted higher critical hit damage, higher healing modifier, higher support power, and much more stamina, I could do that. I don't know that you would want to do that because you're going to do it at the expense of damage modifier and attack power. But if you're trying to be a healing Minotaur, like if you wanted to be a Friar or take Pixie, Friar, and Pixie, you could do that.
Anthrage also is asking, do those abilities modify differently for different archetypes, like fighter, mage, and rogue, perhaps?
They in fact do. So the character sheet is in fact broken into
fighter, mage, and rogue.
And why is that important?
Because you'll have a different primary stat for each one. So mages, not surprisingly, are intellect as their primary stat. Rogues are dexterity. Attack power, I believe, comes always from your primary stat, is how you
A portion of
that.
it does.
A portion of your attack power. And then for the mage and rogue archetypes, your strength plays into something as well. Because
So
it was like intellect and strength, and then dex and strength fed into one stat.
So yeah,
But I don't remember
we
what
actually
stat that was.
we actually changed some of that, such that dexterity is always critical hit chance.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if you want to be a critty confessor, for example, you need to take dex. Dex is still very important to you. It's not all just dump everything into int, and int is my one stop shop for every good stat that I want. No, we kind of wanted to make you choose such that you would build your vessels in a custom way, and you guys are not going to eat food in front.
We had so much food this morning. How can you still be hungry?
No,
I'm
it's
starving.
the lunchtime sandwiches showed up. Yeah,
There's
late.
so much food in the kitchen.
It's all no, that's gone. The only thing that's left over is donuts.
Oh no, not well. I mean,
Well,
we shouldn't be eating donuts.
if you're
but-
eating
Donuts
donuts.
that have been sitting out for.
Well, the round rock donuts, so they're always good.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the Round Rock donuts are.
So
excellent.
here's the mega attributes test ring, which you guys will never have access to. But again, you can see that you can boost things significantly by equipping attributes like that. Or I'm sorry, raising the attributes like that. Now, let's go over to a caster. So try and remember that screen. And now I'm gonna swap over. Hey, what's up with that? We're getting an exception on,
Combat service.
and all I did was equip and unequip things.
Interesting. I did not see that one come up in my testing. I'll have to go back and look at it, see if I can replicate it. Finding bugs on stream, always good.
Yeah, finding bugs is always good.
Let's see.
Mind if I eat?
Yeah, you just go ahead and eat over there, Gibson.
So yummy, God, starving.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I'm gonna do.
And while you're waiting it for load, we are getting a question. With rings getting plus 150 AP, does that mean we'll see similar bonuses on armor and weapons rather than only getting 0.1 to 1 AP on each piece with the current craft?
You will never see items with those stats ever. Those are ridiculous and they're for testing only. They will not look like that at all. Attributes will probably never be on any piece of equipment. Attributes only come from vessel creation and the skill trees. But we need to test things. So how we test things is we create test items. Just like that amazing success ring, which guarantees that you always get an amazing success in crafting. Those are not things that are accessible to players. All right, human cleric is what I was going to test. Human cleric male. There we go.
And Anthrage is now asking, when we said mage, rogue, and fighter, were we casually referring to tank support DPS, or did we change the role names?
So those are just the organization of the character sheets as well as the class skill trees.
Because skill tree redesign is coming up too.
Yes, the classes are all getting a redesign, and we just grouped them under very canonical roles of rather than tank, support, specialist. Because in reality, the difference between specialist and any of the other melee fighters, it would be weird. Now it's really easy because if they're fighter, they're under there, and it makes sense because it's champion, myrmidon, knight, and what's the fourth?
Templar?
Templar. There you go.
I
There.
know your class is better than you do.
It's because there's so many, and they're all flowing through my head at the same time. Okay, so here's a cleric. You want to give me some kittens?
There, you've got some kittens. Just don't resize your page.
Are they covering stuff up?
They're covering stuff up right now.
Okay.
They may not be if you change things around. Just let me know when you don't need them anymore.
Hey, look, kittens.
It's Blossom and
Aw.
Buttercup. From the most recent foster litter we had, which was the Powerpuff Girls.
That is a good question. Is a
There's
cleric a
three
fighter, a
Powerpuff
mage, or rogue?
Yeah, they had a
Cleric falls under Mage. Mage breaks into two subs, which is Divine and Arcane. What is Aisla looking at me for?
To mess with you?
I don't know.
For the giggles?
Underneath Divine, you have Cleric and you have Druid, and underneath Mage, you have Frostweaver and Confessor. Okay, so let's look at this guy's character sheet.
Can I take kittens down now?
Yes, you may.
Okay.
We're being asked why you were covering up. Could normal players use those commands too? No.
No.
That's why it's covering
That's
up.
why it's covered up. So here you have, we're over on a male human cleric now, and you can see that instead of fury, he has mana.
Mana.
In fact, let me go full screen so it's
Yeah.
not as...
So prettier full screen. It's
But-
easier to read.
It's much easier to read full screen. And you will notice that his top attribute is now intellect, as opposed to the fighter, which was strength. And if you are on a rogue, it will be dexterity. And you'll notice that, right, he has a...
It's attack power that feeds from both.
Yeah, it's attack power that feeds from strength as well as intellect. So intellect still will contribute to his attack power, but so will strength. So you might want to put some points into strength if you are on a cleric, if you want to do some damage with your, when you go crazy hammer mode.
So we are being asked, is cleric more of a caster than a battle melee cleric?
Yes. Their range on their thrown hammers is 20 meters currently, and if you get any of the extenders, it will be a little further. So yes, they are absolutely more of a kind of short to mid-range ranged hammer thrower. Most of their stuff is their heals fall in that range as well. So should you make some more noise over there, John?
I gotta eat during someone's.
Yep, you do. And it might as well be ours.
Well, you're on like 20 times today.
I know. Okay, so what was I going to show over here? So again, let me find the entering. Yes, notice how all these things say test. They all say test very explicitly. They'll have damage on there for some reason too. That seems to be a bug.
Yeah, I would say so.
So again, and those values, I'm guessing somewhere in the scale of 0 to 250 is kind of the range we're looking at for attributes right now. When you calculate everything that can come from vessels and everything that can come from crafting, that's where it will go. So again, you raise int on a cleric and you're going to see a huge amount of critical hit damage. Wow, that's pretty high.
Though you said that that might still be a double value from that book
Yes,
that we're seeing.
it's definitely a double value.
Also, I mean, these stats are kind of insane since the one ring is giving 150.
Well, that's again, that's simulating the purple quality vessel probably, plus the purple quality philosopher's stone going into that. So again, this is pretty much the base page of the character sheet. Any questions?
We are being asked, will alchemy temporary lift stats or attributes
Well, alchemy.
from potions?
Oh no, so right now there isn't any attribute. We don't like to mess with the attributes at all. So you pretty much right now your vectors are going to be the skill tree as well as your vessel. So that's pretty much it, and attributes are way more important than individual stats because they affect a lot more things. And there's even more things that they affect in here. We'll show you that when we start digging into the detailed hierarchy view of all of the stats.
Our race is going to have significantly different attributes from each other as laid out on the website.
Yes, I mean, you can already see that they're kind of... What am I on? I'm on a human? Okay, I'm safe to show you... Right, so the human racial, he just gets a 30 point strength buff, which in this build, it's not being applied. It will be applied once Akshay checks that in, as well as his extra passive, as well as his extra power bar slot.
And, oh, there are a lot of questions now. Could you ever be convinced to move stamina from spirit to constitution?
Stamina from spirit to constitution. Maybe. Yeah, we'll... That would put 2 pools in there. I don't know yet.
How much will skill training contribute to stat increases on our vessels?
How much will skill training? I don't know the budget that Hallish put into the race, because that's all under the race skill trees right now. and I want to say it was like 90 points that he was giving out in those trees. If you went all the way down to the individual, this would fall under the human one, which is Natharian human.
That would take a long time to get all the way to the end of the tree to get those 90 points, though.
It sure would.
Some dedication to that one tree. How do your purple or higher rarity vessels compare to like a basic gray or white?
Well, what you're looking at right now is white. There is no such thing as a gray vessel.
I'm making up colors.
Sure. The purple one was significantly better just by virtue of it having a Philosopher's Stone, which comes from alchemy, crafted into the vessel. And then there's the different additives that you can find, the eyeballs and the hands and the extra lungs and the extra hearts.
Extra lungs.
I think it's actually enhanced lungs is one of the parts that you can put into a centaur.
Will we be seeing any advantages or disadvantages today?
No, you will not be seeing any advantages or disadvantages. Those exist or will exist in the character swapping screen, and I didn't want to show you that at the statues because it kind of messes up the character sheet.
That's fair. Alrighty. Jesus, guys, you ask a lot of questions. I'm sorry. We asked the training one. I asked that one. Our gender is going to have different attributes.
Our gender is going to have different attributes. No, we're not giving a distinction between male or female. That one's more of a cosmetic choice.
This is a long one. Original concept was that a group of new characters would give a veteran character a hard time in combat. However, based on the gear we've seen, it appears that we're approaching the scenario where a mass of, like, a bunch of level 20s will never kill a level 100. As akin to, like, WoW. The low-level characters, no matter how many you have, will not be able to beat a high-level character.
If you've played our combat more than once, you know that that is not a thing. If you have multiple people on you, they're going to keep you locked down, and yes, you will have a more attribute advantage, but, I mean, really?
Will any stats in the game affect power, efficiency, or will that be exclusive to disciplines?
Power efficiency, you mean power cost multiplier, which is what I'm assuming they're talking about. Yes, that is coming straight from disciplines, as well as the weapon crafting portion of that's where its budget lives.
Can you talk through the differences and interrelation between support power and healing modifier? Is heal mod only healing done or only healing received?
Okay, so support power. So support power is the twin to attack power. So when a power executes, we can apply a modifier to the actual min and max value of that heal. That value that's getting fed in is support power for heals. For offensive things, it's attack power plus your weapon damage plus a couple other things. The damage modifier and where's the healing modifier? Healing modifiers, those are values applied as a pure multiplier after that's all figured out. So one of these is a multiplier, and one of these is basically added to the min and max of the power.
And now that we've given you descriptions on what all these are, it should also make more sense what...
Yes, in fact, I do believe healing modifier says multiplier on the amount of health your healing power is restored.
Yeah, that'll be a while before you guys see this character sheet in game, but, you know, it exists.
Yeah, this is all coming out with the 5.3 content drop. So that will be after Campaign Worlds. The next big thing is the race class split, and this is all bundled into that.
Could we bring over the weapon damage values into the formulas and the powers selection sheet? I mean...
Over here?
Yeah. So that you can see how much, specifically how much these do, I think is what they're implying.
Potentially, yeah.
Because right now we have kind of the ranges going on. Like there we've got the 63 to 70 plus 280% weapon damage.
Yeah, once you have that stuff, then it should be easy.
Don't say that. I localized all of those. Those are not... These were not easy to localize. Because those values are static that are pulling in there. They're not dynamic. But I mean, we could put in dynamic values. Because once I'm calculating them in one place, it's not that much harder to transfer them over to another.
Okay.
Will our initial stat spread on a vessel come primarily from our class choice or the race of the vessel?
Right now, the all of the stats are being defined as class. Race is an offset to the class values. So when you pick knight, knight has a certain baseline, and then your race skews it via the racial discipline, and then whatever skills that you have trained in whatever of the race hierarchy will further skew that.
Okay, so he described what he meant by power efficiency, but that's a pretty long paragraph. There are 3 stats tied to power cost modifiers: power efficiency, which is a flat amount that gets subtracted from final cost, and power multiplier, which multiplies the final cost. As his weapons only affect power multiplier and disciplines only affect power efficiency, I asked if there will be stats that affect efficiency because some classes are more heavily affected by that stat than others. Why you see Myrmidon's will? I feel like that might be a typo. Why you see Myrmidons have a 50% cost ability? I'm not sure what that last sentence was because I think there's a typo in there.
I mean, generally, right now, again, it's in a passive that reduces one of those values. It's not linked to raising an attribute.
Do we have to manually update tooltips right now, or are we pulling from something internally? Every tooltip is unique.
Every tooltip's a snowflake?
Every tooltip's a snowflake. And right now, basically every tooltip has its own logic. We are currently working on making all tooltips under the same logic. Surprisingly, tooltips are a much more complicated thing to code than you'd ever imagine because of the way that Unity does the UI objects themselves. When you have things like content fitters, which make text look pretty, it really, really screws up what Unity thinks the size of the window is when you try to call it in code, which then when it thinks it's the wrong window size, it throws it to like the left hand of the screen. When you see in code that it's in the middle. Tooltips are fun. I've been having fun with tooltips, guys, but those will one day sit exactly like how beautiful these are and how they sit on my mouse. All tooltips one day will be that way.
Or when you hover over it, it initially pops to the bottom of the screen and then
Oh
pops
yeah,
out.
no, that was a really, really frustrating bug. I don't even remember how we, oh, I remember because in Unity, the way that we had our tool, for anybody that cares about code or wants to learn about Unity, the tooltips did for a second on only the the left hand showed up perfectly when I was doing this, but the right hand, they would flash to the bottom of the screen here and then come back up. That's because the way that we were doing our tooltip script was trying to parent the tooltip to the object that was calling it, and since the objects on the right hand side of the screen, this list of attributes, those are all part of one group, so it was parenting to that, so it was appearing on there before it was adjusting itself, which is grossly dumb in a lot of ways. So I rewrote the way that entire logic works, so that now it appears on the mouse where it's supposed to, like a good tooltip.
You would think tooltips would be easy. But
You would think tooltips would be easy, but Akshay and I have spent a lot of time battling the tooltips. Tooltips are not my friend, but we figured it out now, so hopefully one day all the tooltips will behave.
Great.
Okay, I missed a lot of questions by going on a tooltip rant.
She went on a rant about tooltips.
I just want you to understand that things that seem like they're trivial just aren't always trivial.
Just make it work.
Yeah, just make it work. Like, oh, why didn't they fix this bug? Like, 'cause it's really complicated for dumb reasons. Okay, fun question. What are your favorite classes in the game so far?
Oh, I usually can be found on a knight, and I'm starting to veer towards the cleric as it's coming online.
I only play duelist. I'm not much of a furry, but I really, really like all of his abilities.
That's a valid answer.
I just like going into stealth. You don't do as much damage as some of the other classes do, I feel like, on duelist, and I really don't like healing classes ever, because they're really hard for me to kill. But I stay alive forever and just burrow and run away.
Okay.
And then come back and stun people.
Well, you
from
can get away.
stealth.
Right, the stealth also means that they can't find you right off the bat.
Yeah, no, the stealth is really nice. And the zipping underneath buildings is really nice, too. Yeah, but duelist for sure is my favorite. Okay.
Are the caps going to be hard caps or soft caps?
The caps that are on stats, the question was, are the caps going to be hard caps or soft caps? They're absolutely, right now, they're hard caps. We've put them in as kind of a safety valve. We really don't think you should be hitting them. And in 95% of the cases, it's just, we have that there as a safety valve in case something breaks, like 2x the stat contribution. We have that there just in case that bad things happen. Or damage bonus. Like if we put in 5 or 6 different sources of damage bonus and we really don't want this value to get out of hand, we just hard cap it and it's there as a safety valve.
And these tooltips should actually have your capped values as well. It's just that particular bit of information is not easily accessible in code right now, and I have to write that in.
So here on this one, you can see there's a cap over there on the right. They will all have a value like that, so you can see the cap.
Though this cap is kind of a misnomer because really what this is doing is it's actually showing our active health and then our capped health. So that was me trying to call the total stat value without totally understanding what that was when I called it. As that turns out, it's actually just the maximum HP that you can have on that character at that time.
We might, I mean, since
in the way pools work,
it might end up being confusing, so we might end up bearing that within our new advanced control tooltip option. So to find out the cap, you actually need to hold the control key down and it'll show you more enhanced information, so that way it doesn't get this. These tooltips weren't designed to be just chock full of numbers, right? It should be that's more of an advanced thing.
But that's why we have the control button that I put into skill trees so that we can see extra stuff.
Yeah,
because our players like seeing extra stuff.
They love extra.
Sometimes.
That's why we show them the simple tooltip and the extra tooltip for people that want to know.
Yep.
Like when you're playing Diablo and you press the extra button to find out more information on your tooltips.
Most people don't know about the control key. It's useful.
Control key is very useful. Though on skill trees we put a little note so you guys know that the control key shows you more stuff. Skill trees right now also look beautiful. They will only look more and more beautiful as time goes on.
I prefer your answers over anybody.
I appreciate you guys.
For several reasons, apparently. But because of your clarity.
What do you got?
They're not asking questions anymore. They're just complimenting me. Let's see. Here's another question. Sorry guys, I have to read your questions before I can read them out loud to make sure that there's nothing bad. Okay. At the moment we have classes that have spirit trees ranged in split trees. I can't read anymore. At the moment we have classes that have split trees ranged and melee. In effect they're investing a lot of time to reach the same level as other weapon yielders. Example, to be just as strong as 1-year-old champion in both my trays, I will have to train 1 year in both skill trees. So basically the classes that have like the dual ranged versus a melee weapon, if you're going down, do you have to go down the ranged tree and the melee tree to be just as good as a character that just has one weapon? What's the trade-off here that we're getting?
It depends. It all depends. And the whole won't someone think of the children kind of argument again. Yes, someone will think of the children and we will make a catch-up mechanic, but that's such a future problem. We're not even really worried about it now.
Okay, so just to be sure, rangers eventually will have multiple quiver slots and be able to equip multiple stacks of arrows, right?
Todd just answered him.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Todd's answer. Oh, yep, he did.
Okay, but we can actually show them, so the other tabs up here, there is the armor tab.
Yay, with resistances.
Yes, so many people have always been confused at, when I get hit, what am I mitigating against? We don't use a generic armor class style system for a variety of reasons, mainly because those can be gamed in any number of ways, such that the best thing to do is equip a breastplate and not equip anything else, such that you go into PvP with 80 to 90% of the stats, and that's generally good enough. So that's one of the fallouts. In the example here, if you got hit in the boot slot and you weren't wearing anything in your feet, you are going to only mitigate 0.8% of the damage. If I were to equip my boot, I would now take a 20%. Now, there is a bug, and you may notice it right off the bat. That value should say 20.8. there's a bug.
Yeah, the 0.8 is stuff coming from the skill trees, and they should add, but it's only giving you the stats from the equipment right now.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
So one of the nice things about putting character sheets in is that we see that there are some bugs that have just been sleeping on us, and no one has noticed them because we haven't been presenting what the actual values are. And at one point they may have worked, and just if you don't keep an eye on a specific thing, like I said earlier, someone messed with something on the spider web and it broke all the way over here. Like the time that you broke mega nodes on harvesting when you removed, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was, she changed something in the armor formula for players and it ended up breaking our mega nodes.
Because it tried to increase like the amount of hit that you did, and it went to a treasure table that didn't exist. So yeah, that was something along those lines.
I think it was actually, we told you were turning off the armor in certain calculations, and that happened to also happen on mega nodes.
Maybe this was two different bugs, because there was definitely one where I was going outside of the treasure tables.
This was actually on damaging the node, and it made it such that solo players could easily, because the armor value.
Right,
remember
that's
that
right.
one?
Yeah, so solo players could do mega nodes.
So again, touching one thing may break something else, and in this case, who knows what got broke. But you can now see, if I were to take a shot to the foot, I would mitigate exactly this. And this is basic armor, and these values will get reduced at some point, but in testing right now, we have them set artificially high. So you can actually see now what is being applied across the board when you equip something, how it changes it. And this is generally when we say increases all physical mitigations by blah. This is where it's going to go, and it's going to get applied as a bonus to all 4 slots rather than just a specific slot. So generally when you see a increases mitigation by blah, it's being applied as a bonus to all of the slots.
We probably also should add a tooltip somewhere in here so that we know what each thing is, because we're kind of assuming that we know what a sword means.
Correct.
But
this is currently slashing, crushing, piercing, fire, ice, electric, nature, poison, disease, bleeding, and hunger, of which no one has any mitigation.
yeah, and I mean, like, the difference between poison and disease, like, we might want a tooltip that explicitly says which one's which.
Yeah, and these also should show the actual piece that
yeah.
you have equipped.
That's on my to-do list. This is all on my to-do list.
Yeah, we just started on this page, did a little bit of work on this page, enough to make it work. And great to see some bugs, and we need to keep working on that. And then finally, there is a third tab on here, which you guys are familiar with because this is kind of what you currently have.
Right.
Right, which is basically the big giant list of all of the stats broken down into 3 categories: combat, crafting, and exploration. And then this is obviously placeholder. In
This
fact,
is super placeholder.
none of these buttons
Yeah, none
work.
of it works. But
But
it'll be beautiful when it's done.
You will be able to see in cases where we have parent stats that have children stats, like a lot of the harvesting stats are broken up that way. You guys will be able to see that and drill down into it and see all kinds of useful. There'll be tooltips on these things too, right?
Yeah. Tooltips all around.
Everyone loves.
Everybody loves tooltips.
Excellent.
Now that we finally solved how to make tooltips appear, I love tooltips too.
You think it'd be easy to put the tooltips on this page?
I don't ever say the word easy when it comes to anything that deals with code, Blair, because every time I say the word easy, it becomes like a week or month-long task.
Yeah.
I don't say the word easy anymore.
About that.
Yeah. No.
All right, questions.
Oh, there's a lot. Do you have any specific for us that you noticed coming across?
Can you show what attributes impact gathering, if any? Or tell what attributes impact gathering?
Without having the gathering stats up here, I can't show them, obviously. Right now, there isn't a lot of gathering or crafting underneath attributes, but we will be adding some of those as well.
Will we end up having a different character sheet that shows your crafting attributes in the future land, then? Instead
Well, like,
of the attack? I mean, as far as, like, this main sheet goes, yeah. Because, I mean, if I'm a crafter or gatherer, I actually don't care about any of these values if I don't ever plan on fighting anyone.
As interesting as that may be, yes. Because you probably are going to get jumped when you go out to gather. I can't think that a gatherer is going to find a scenario where they don't get attacked by something.
A gatherer at some point is going to get attacked by something, but I'm the crafter hanging out at my keep.
Sure.
I mean, unless my keep gets attacked.
which
I
is,
think-
is
I
a
think-
distinct possibility.
I think that idea just added on more work.
Yeah, just keep
Just
on.
gave yourself more work.
I'm pretty sure I just gave myself more work, yeah.
Okay, more questions.
Do you guys have any plans to scale abilities like bard songs that give static stat values, especially considering stats are going to be inflating with a lot of vessels and stats on gear?
By any thoughts, what do you mean specifically? Like, yes, we always have thoughts about scalability and how things are going to interplay, but like specific problems? No, I mean, we have our big pie chart of where we're putting the stat distribution and how things increase. We're definitely trying to keep that reasonable. Obviously, a percentage gain is generally more potent.
Can we expect to see buffs and debuffs that impact attributes as opposed to just stats?
Generally, we like to stick away from things that affect the attributes. I'm trying to keep it down to just in the skills and just on the vessels. Changing those things via a short duration combat thing is something we don't really do. We specifically just hit specific stats like reduces attack power by blah or reduces damage bonus by blah.
Cal Soul Reaver amended their question.
Okay.
It may be easier, Susie, for you to read it rather than me reading it out because it's a little bit
Yeah.
more technical.
If I train X months in two-handed weapon, I will have Y amount of power level. As a dual trait class, will I have to train both skill paths to be on the same power level? If I split the time between two trays, will I be at 50% of power level, which the two-handed user has?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Blair.
Yes, you will. You'll definitely, if there is an equivalent number of nodes between them, and you see that as equivalent advantage, then yes, you will train. You will have to. You'll have to train 2x. Yeah, it's harder for you. See, that's one of the great things about Crowfall is not everything is perfectly equivalent. Pick your path. I mean, and it's account based, so once you train it once, then it applies forever to that specific style of class. But we definitely don't try and make everything equal and fair to everybody in every scenario. That's just not one of our goals. I mean, look at our racial disciplines. That's a great example. We wanted them to feel extremely powerful and extremely different from each other, which by very nature of saying that means that they will not always be equal.
It's fair. I feel like this question pops up a lot because I read it on the forums all the time, which I'm sure that means you've answered it plenty of times. Are you planning on adding another bar for knights so that they don't have to use stamina for everything?
Nope.
Okay.
They are hit point stamina guys.
They want to have a different resource for sprinting and harvesting at least, though.
Generally,
But you wouldn't be in
that,
combat.
I mean, again, part of the goal for them is they're defending an area. They're not ranging in an open field looking for one-on-ones like you currently do. I think one of the things I pointed out this morning is the field of combat is going to change now that we have objective-based stuff.
That's true.
They are going to be chilling around an area, preventing something, blocking people from getting into an area, defending the tree. I mean, that's the role that they're going to play. And if you don't like that role, we have 11 other classes.
Yeah,
Actually, we have 10 other classes. But I mean, once we start to get the real game in there, and it's less of this, hey, we're going to PvP in an open field, and I don't like it because I'm not equivalent to everybody else, because we're all fighting in an open field, and everybody can get away from me, and yada, yada, yada. Again, that's not the end goal of the game. It's about sieging and defending things, and you need people who are good at that. And the knights will be good at that. And that's always been the intent.
Okie dokie. Are we still planning on having the enchantment crafting power modification system?
Enchantment power crafting modification system. Yeah, we definitely tested that out. Was it in Hunger Dome or was it Siege Perilous? Anyways, we still have some of that data, and it still may be a thing that gets in. That's more of a content feature at this point. And we'll see if we have time.
Now that we have the Assassin coming out soon, could you tell us a little bit more about the stealth system, specifically about anti-stealth, as that's something that people care about a lot. I know in our internal playtesting, you can see somebody when they're like right next to you sometimes, but
Sure. So the way it's supposed to work is there are certain disciplines that grant a reveal, essentially, power, such that I can peer into the shadows, and I have a bubble how far I can see stealthers, and stealthers have a bubble how much noise they are creating. If those two bubbles touch, then I can see them. So a stealther that raises his skill will shrink his noise bubble, and I think however, there's some disciplines like Fashion Statement, the one that lets you wear more necklaces, that actually make you noisier because you've got more bling on, so you're not quite as stealthy. And we may even incorporate plate, leather, and the mail series into how much noise they create on that bubble. But the anti-stealthers engage their bubble, and while it's active, they have that bubble, so they will be able to see in a 360 around them of stealthers, at which point they can either hit them to knock them out of stealth, or mark them with some type of power that will reveal them, I don't know, like an expose or something like that. But that's kind of how the anti-stealth bubble works and the stealth noise bubble works. They're both bubbles, and the higher your anti-stealth rating is, the bigger your bubble is, and the stealther, the more stealthier they are, the smaller their bubble is.
now that we're moving over to this kind of class race split, class promotions are they still a thing? Are they comparable to major disciplines? Are they better than a major discipline?
So
Will we still how do class promotions work?
The promotion stuff was always roughed off of the skill trees. I mean, you always saw them down there on the end. It would take months to get to those things. So for us, that's always, hey, that's a future problem a year out from launch, because it will take people that long to get there.
Right.
With the new class trees, it may potentially take even longer to get to the end of the series, because now it's class basics into Fighter Mage Rogue. Fighter Mage Rogue each have 2 children, and to get all the way through that 3rd stage to the end that you could jump to a 4th stage is where we would put promotions if we had them. So sure, we might actually add them in there just to show you where they're going to go, but the availability of getting there within less than a year and a half maybe is questionable.
Okay. Will weapons armors have special spells or effects like gain strength per hit when you reach X health percent? I missed the end of that question.
That's that mouse.
Oh, wrong mouse. So when you reach X health percent, next attack is always crit or slow the target, etc. I actually hooked up some stats for you that have to do with what health percentage you're at.
Yeah, you did.
So
what about them?
Let me review this question. Will weapons armors have special spells or effects that gain strength per hit, or once you reach X percent health, next attack is always crit or slow the target, etc.?
So, I mean, we can do that by adding those stats into the crafting tables. So as available things or metal types that you can make, would be a new alloy type if we had room in there, or when we do phase 2 of crafting and we go in there and we start looking at what we put in there the first time, we now have way more stats that we can put in there. So as you said, that's something you gave us, the ability just to increase a stat, and it just...
Yeah. When it's like your HP and stuff, like above 90, below 30, because we were doing
Right.
slowing stats for those,
We're also
and like taking more damage
Yep.
or taking less damage.
Yes.
If you have certain, I think that was for disciplines. That was a discipline support.
Those are all
things.
discipline stats, yeah. Like increased or decreased critical hit chance on the target, which is a thing. So yeah, we could definitely...
We have the ability to do that. On the note of disciplines, how easy is it? If I kill somebody, can I grab the disciplines that they have equipped? How hard is it disciplines to obtain?
So right now, you can just make disciplines with a simple crafting recipe. That's not going to be the case. You're going to actually have to go capture a thrall of that type and use that thrall in a more advanced crafting formula to come up with the discipline of a certain quality. The higher the quality of the discipline, the more stats that it gives, because you'll notice if you look at any discipline, they all give like 5% to crushing or 5% to that. That thing scales up based on the quality of the discipline. Once that discipline is equipped, it is embedded in that vessel. You are not getting it back, so you're not going to lose it.
Can I steal somebody's vessel?
Right now, no, because
Can't-
vessel isn't a thing.
But I mean, it's a corpse. You're saying I can't just like grab the corpse and go, not like Ultima where I could take all of their stuff.
No.
It'd be kind of like the same.
It's
thing.
not an object right now. It's still, we haven't actually built that thing out yet, and we're even talking that goes into a special inventory such that they don't pollute the main inventory because they're so big.
I'd really, really like to kill somebody and take their body. That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, doesn't sound so fun if you spent like multiple campaigns before you finally found a bard discipline.
That's
Right.
rough for that person. They
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have died.
Yeah.
That's why you only do that in the dregs.
Yeah, what's funny is right now everybody's like, disciplines are easy to get. Well, yeah, because we're giving it to you for a copper. Once you actually have to go find a bard thrall or a juggernaut thrall, that could take you an entire campaign. And when you put it in a vessel, then you're going to be pretty inclined to use that vessel from there on out, which is that race. Now, you will have the available classes available to that race, but it's still locked to that specific vessel.
What do thralls bring in? Stats, attributes, or just powers?
Wait,
Thralls. I think this is a totally side question. I know we were just talking about vessels.
into the discipline crafting, they will bring in whatever stats are on that specific discipline. Wow, Todd's already coming in.
Yeah,
You
we
guys have
apparently
3 minutes.
we ate up most of our hour. It went so fast.
One more question.
Any plans for limited number of spawns per campaign world? For example, where there'll only be 5 bards spawning for the whole world.
Wow, that would be pretty brutal. And we'll work out the spawning details once we actually have functional campaigns doing their thing.
We don't plan on any hard caps, so on the number, like only X of anything will drop. Right?
Well, I don't plan on anything, but you come in and say, this would be an interesting idea. And I'd be like, yeah, we could do
I'm
that.
not planning on any hard X number per world only.
Okay.
The
So
Bud used to do that, oddly enough. Like, for you to get another Vorpal sword, somebody else out there had to stop, like, quit the game, and then get their character deleted for you to get one.
Right,
There's
but
like a limited number available into the.
if you were to map that to our campaigns, though, you could just make 5 Vorpal swords spawn on this campaign, and then they're used up. The 5 Winter Rose has spawned for this campaign,
we
right?
could.
We
I do
could.
not plan on doing that right
There's
now.
a should. At the end of any can you do this, there's always a should we do this, and the should is the more important thing.
Yeah, we did plan on having limited relics, right? I mean, that's a thing, but the idea of limited discipline runestones, that seems kind of harsh.
All right, you ready to take over?
Sure.
It
Bye,
is.
guys.
It is 2 o'clock. Thanks for showing up. I will be on later for more race reveals, and thanks for showing up.
thanks, guys.